Le Nissan Kick-Play 2025 a beaucoup de plus. Apple CarPlay intégré pour jouer vos tunes préférées, des fonctions avancées de sécurité, un rendement énergétique remarquable, puis même la petite odeur de char neuf qu'on aime tant. Tout ça en plus pour moins. Le Nissan Kick Play 2025 est le véhicule neuf le plus abordable au Québec. Achetez-le à partir de seulement 22 774 $, incluant un rabais à l'achat comptant de 2 600 $. Profitez de cette offre avantageuse chez votre concessionnaire dès maintenant. Jusqu'au 2 mars, des conditions s'appliquent. Détails chez Nissan.
Happy Monday morning to you all. Wow, what a glorious weekend we have. Now, we're kicking off the second hour of the Elias Macko Show, and we need you. We are looking for people who have a loved one who's receiving home care from the CLSC, because we want to have a discussion. Over the next little while on the show, we're going to have a discussion with you over what's happening when it comes to home care that you get from the CLSC. Have there been cutbacks? And the reason we're going to do this segment is thanks to who we're going to start off with this segment with. Myles Charon joins us once again. He's a West Islander, and he's been taking care of his 92-year-old mother. Myles, thank you for joining us once again on the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, you were on a couple of weeks ago, and when you came on telling us your story and what's happened with care from the CLSC, one of the points that came up is, hey, we should bring this back, and we should be looking for other stories from other Montrealers to have a conversation. So why don't you kick us off here, Myles, let me read the phone number, 514-790-0800. That's our phone line, 514-790-0800. Myles, why don't you start us off here with why you think this is so important, and tell our listeners, if they missed it 2 weeks ago, your story.
Okay, first off, thank you very much, Elias. And also, because last time it was so short, I didn't get a chance to convey my sympathies over your loss and your previous situation. When my mother was discharged from the hospital a little over a year ago, I was given 25 hours of service, which would include 4 visits a day plus a respite. And at that time, they were using an agency, in this case, Comfort Elite. And they would come and they would take their time and they would talk to my mother. And to the best of my knowledge, they were given an hour, transport time included, between patients. The CLSC said, we're going to take it over. We're better trained. We're going to do a better job than Comfort Elite. Things will be vastly improved. They underestimated, I don't know how they underestimated, but they underestimated the number of people that they needed, and they're extremely short-staffed. So the first thing they did was start to cut services. And as well, the government of Quebec cut services. So my mother was getting 2 showers a week. That was cut down to 1 shower a week. And in fact, I'm not even getting that because of some confusion. There's some coding problems and there's misunderstandings. But the bottom line is I'm giving my mother her showers. Last Thanksgiving, there was no service at all. Nobody came to the house for the whole day. They moved the cleaning times from a cleaning in the morning to only a 15-minute genital wash. Then she gets a proper wash, but even that is no back, no feet at around 4 o'clock, and then she gets a service in the evening just before she goes to bed. Under Comfort Elite, they were taking care of a client approximately 1 per hour. I'm guessing, but now with the CLSC, they're expected with 15 minutes to get to 2 people in an hour. And they're in, they're out, they don't talk, they're run ragged. Yes, there's some amazing PABs, there's some not so amazing PABs, but the situation is they are so overloaded and tasked that the only thing they can do is cut services to accommodate. So I only get 3 cleanings a day. I get approximately 10 hours a week. In my belief, they're trying to cut my respite, which is a 3-hour period during which I can leave the home with confidence. They've scheduled most of her hygiene during the respite, which means for at least the first hour, I have to be here to assist. So, and my concern is this is only the tip of the iceberg. They took over during the summer. They said officially October we take over full time, and we've seen so many cuts already. I have no idea what's going to happen in the next 6 months.
So, Myles, stick around here because, like I said, we're opening up our phone lines here, 514-790-0800, because we want to have a discussion with everyone who's listening about the cuts that they are seeing. So let me bring in Robin here. Robin, welcome to the program.
Hi.
So you have a grandmother who's 99 right now, going to be 100 in February. Absolutely fantastic to hear that. But tell us about what you've been dealing with when it comes to home care.
Well, she has been in the system for, I would say, just shy of 9 years now, because we live together. We bought a triplex in LaSalle to live together because she had Alzheimer's. My grandfather was, 92, but in perfect health and taking care of her, and they had absolutely no services. So I lived upstairs. They lived on the main floor. My grandmother, as we all know, with Alzheimer's, the situation regresses as she gets older. The most recent update we've had is now I live downstairs as my grandfather has passed, so I am her home care. I know exactly what goes on in this house, and I can attest to the fact that, you will not ever get the same PAB twice. Uh-huh. They farm out work to companies like the one we had experience with was Comfort Express or Comfort Keepers, and they will clock in to work saying that they were here and nobody was ever here. Their emergency line doesn't answer. The CLSC will flat out leave her. Well, they said they were there, and she's been in a diaper since the night before. I have actually gone to the CLSC and stood in the office and said, I'm not going to be leaving until somebody comes downstairs. And they have told me to my face, well, I don't know what you want me to do. It's part of, they drive around and make their schedules. And I said, well, what do you mean you don't know what to tell me? Everybody around here is in a fresh pair of underwear, are they not?
Robin, to hear you speak here, and I'm getting text messages from listeners. Sherry says, this story sounds familiar. They would miss some days to visit my son to give him his medication. So clearly people are having many issues here. Robin, can I just ask you, what do you hope? What's your hope? What do you think is the best case scenario for you and your mother here?
This is my grandmother, actually. And
your grandmother, sorry.
There was one thing that Myles had said that really resonated with the fact that he thinks they're trying to take away his respite. They are taking away our respite. Our social worker flat out told me that our 3 hours were coming away from respite. I'm 34 years old. I live with my 99-year-old grandmother. Her situation is not going to improve. How are we losing services? How is she becoming less available to services? How am I not entitled to respite? How is Myles not entitled to respite?
Robin, thank you for adding your voice to this discussion. Do appreciate you giving us a call. All right, we're continuing this discussion about the home care your loved ones are receiving. On the text line at 514-790-0800, here's a note from a listener. My family had to make the most heartbreaking decision to ask for long-term placement for our mother with advanced dementia. We cared for her in her home for 4 years, but couldn't do it anymore due to the level of care she now needs and the inconsistency of the service that the CLSC was offering. Now, with that in mind, let's bring Diane Lewis onto the program. And she and her siblings are facing a challenge of caring for their elderly mother. Diane, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you very much.
Why don't you tell us what happened to you and your siblings here? Apparently, so your mother was in a long-term care facility. You realized it wasn't the right fit. Then what happened?
Yes, so she was put in on August the 20th. And within less than 2 weeks, my sister and I realized that she was going downhill, and she was starting to get depressed, and we just knew that it wasn't going to end on a good note, and so that's when my brother decided to come back from Korea to take care of her. Wow. And so he took her out of the home on September the 20th, and he's been caring for her. But we didn't know until late last week that her file has been completely closed with the CLSC. So we are not getting anything. And really all we need is the hygiene, but they've told us that her file is closed. That's it. That's all. And have a good day.
So by doing something that clearly eases burden on the system, when you take your mom out of long-term care, bring her home, you just now need a little bit of care. But,
exactly.
by doing that, you're now facing this bureaucratic nightmare to try and get that care.
Yes. Yes, and we thought, okay, well, this is great. There's going to be a free bed for someone else, and we'll get the care.
Yeah,
and we don't even need much. My brother is doing it all. He just needs someone to help bathe her and stuff like that to get ready in the morning. The hygiene.
Let me just bring Myles back into this conversation. Myles Charon, who we began the hour with. Myles, do you hear stories like Diane's a lot? Do you hear similar stories like this?
Well, I belong to that West Island Support and Resources for Caregivers in the Elderly group on Facebook, and they have meetings. And basically, I don't actually ever hear a positive story. We're talking about home care where they're supposed to come and help you with the changing of the diaper, basically. And because they have set times, but they don't respect the set times, and it's just like you try to teach a toddler to go at specific times. Like I try to tell my mother, can you wait till 4 o'clock? Can you wait till 1 o'clock? And because they've cut out one of the services, I end up doing at least 1 or 2 cleanings a day. At night, they're supposed to come 8:30 to 9. Yesterday, tried to come at 7 o'clock, and I refused and said it's way too early. Even when they do come, it's of little help because they're not consistent on their schedules. And like somebody else said, you never get the same person twice. When you're dealing with somebody with light dementia, heavy dementia, having a familiar face is very important. And they're always. And plus, I have my quirks. She has her quirks. You constantly have to watch the first-time people because you don't know what they're going to do.
Diane, I heard you reacting in the background there. Anything you want to add to what you just heard from Myles?
Yes. I live in Ontario, and I spent basically 9 months living in Montreal, coming back to Ontario I have cancer, so I was having cancer treatments done here, and then I would drive right back to Montreal. And they were coming in twice a day to give her medication, and it was supposed to be between 5 and 6, but we realized they came anytime between 3 o'clock and 8 o'clock. And if we were gone out to my aunt's house or whatever, and we missed it, I would get a phone call, and it was not a nice phone call, and I would say it's only 4 o'clock. Like, you guys are already supposed to be there between 5 and 6. And it didn't matter what I had to say. And then they might be like a little bit of an attitude they might have the next day.
Let me bring in Siobhan's on the line. She gave us a call here at 514-790-0800. Siobhan, it says you look after your 106-year-old mother?
No, it's not a mother. It's someone I've known for 45 years.
Oh, my goodness.
She's like a mother. And we're very lucky because the thing is that we hire someone who's going to give me a respite, but a lot of people don't have that ability to do that. But I know that the CLSC, for the most part, aren't bad. I'm living on the West Island in Beaconsfield. But the problem is that all the new people they're hiring for the CLSC, they're very inexperienced. And we had a combination of the home care agency and the CLSC, and they cut all the agency people because of the lack of French. This is the West Island. It's like 95% English. But we noticed that, again, with the new people, they're supposed to come between 6 and 7:30. One showed up at 4:30 the other day. And I never know when they're coming on during the day on Saturdays, because they're only full-time, say, Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and then I have someone else to do the rest of the days, and I'm there 24 hours anyway.
My goodness.
But
yeah.
The thing is, though, ever since they cut the agencies, and it was supposed to stop now in March, they have these people who just know French, but maybe not enough experience and looking after older people, and they don't care.
Siobhan, thank you so much for adding that insight here. I think that furthers to the discussion. I appreciate your call. Let me read one text message here, and then I'll get some reaction from Myles and Dan to wrap us up. So here's a text message from a listener. Hi, I am a home healthcare worker for the CLSC. I see a couple of problems. We are missing workers, and the workers that are working are exhausted from coming from a CHSLD that will only have 2 showers or baths a day to having 8 full showers a day. When it comes to the time and respecting the time, people are humans. Sometimes things change, and some people need a more time-sensitive medication, right? So there's the other perspective you have to think about, right? There's probably so many things happening behind the scenes. Myles, can I just ask you to what Siobhan brought up on the phone line before about language? You deal with West Islanders. You're a West Islander yourself. You seeing that issue as well? Care that's just not in the right language?
I actually, to be totally fair, that's the least of my concerns. My mother is bilingual. I have always struggled with French, but I can get by enough. The biggest problem is that Comfort Elite's people were unilingual English, and the CLSC won't hire them because they need to have a higher level of French. The CLSC does not have a problem hiring unilingual French. I can deal with that. Yeah. I'm more concerned about all the other factors than language. To make this an issue of language would be the last thing it needs.
Gotcha.
It needs to be about people who are experienced, well-trained. They're in a rush to fill their ranks. They're just grabbing people right, left, and center. There was supposed to be a 3-month training period. They threw that out the window. They're trying to get them to the front of the ranks. Basically, I'm concerned about the fact that they said, I realize they can't respect the times, but we were given a half an hour before and after. In other words, if you're given an 8 o'clock time, you can expect them between 7:30 and 8:30. We are getting variances, 2-3 hour variances.
Gotcha. Myles, thanks a lot. Diane, I'll give you the last word here. Is there anything you want to add to wrap us up?
Well, I also didn't have a problem with the language because I'm a French teacher here in Ontario. Well, I'm retired French teacher here in Ontario. So
Gotcha.
The language was never a problem. And although my mother is bilingual, when she was in a dementia-type frame of mind, her French was almost non-existent. And so then she was getting frustrated, and then they would turn to talk to me. And then I would say it to her loudly, and I was constantly asking them to speak to her loudly and slowly and clearly, and it was a no-go. And so the biggest thing is that before she went into the home, we were having pretty decent care with the LaSalle CLSC, and there was a couple of little blips here and there, but they didn't even tell us to that her file was closed until my sister asked last week what was going on. And then they said, her file is closed. You get nothing.
Diane, I hope the file gets back open, and I hope you get some resolution there. I want to thank you so much for coming on. Myles Charon as well. Thanks to the both of you for coming on this morning, and everyone else who called in, Robin and the others that called in to give us their insight.